Ladies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever live stream in the history of RG. I'm Zach Lowy. I'm very proud to be doing this Atletico Madrid versus Barcelona preview with two fantastic guests who've waited a long time to get this up. But really excited to have both Emmanuel Lavogez, who joins us from Cameroon, and Kevin Williams, who joins us from Portugal. How are you two gentlemen doing?
Fantastic. Lovely day today. Had a fantastic bike ride, big lunch, chilled out, watched some Archer. That's so that was on television.
Yep.
And now here I am.
Great. Emmanuel, great to have you on. Merci pour venir.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and it was, I think, building up to the game. I think it's a tense game because Alexi is part of my life, and
Yeah.
as somebody who's aspiring to work in football, I think feeling the pressure now is kind of okay because in a month our season is over. Yeah, I'm doing okay, and it's a pleasure to actually speak to Kevin as well. I think when I joined Twitter not so long ago, he's one of the people I think who I follow, not just because of the popularity or whatever, but I think he's one of the sensible ones on Twitter because nowadays you don't have a lot of
You
that. A
definitely
lot of
is.
fans get carried away by the emotions. Like after tonight, you see a lot of reactionary takes,
Right.
no matter who wins.
All right, Kevin's ego is big enough, okay? We don't need to build it up even more. But
I'm egoless.
Emmanuel, you're going band for band with me with the jersey background. I love it, brother. Guys, let's break this down real quick, okay? Each of the last four meetings between Barcelona and Atletico have served up over 2.5 goals, whilst the last two have served up over 5.5. After a 4-4 draw in the first leg, Kevin, is there any reason to believe that we won't see another high-scoring clash at the Metropolitano?
I don't think we will this time. I think that both teams will be less. The word I'm searching for, I don't want to say dumb, right? Because that implies, but like they had this like sense of wanting to go at each other, and I think that there's much more at stake tonight, mostly for Atleti because this is now their season, unless Real or Barca does a massive league full, which is not outside the realm,
Right.
but they're done in Champions League. They are functionally done in league, so this is it for them. And so I think that Simeone will be intense but cagey at this time. And I think that my prediction is, and I'm sure that Barca fans won't be happy, but I think it'll be 2-1 to Atleti.
Wow. Intense and cagey. When is Simeone? Never. Emmanuel, Atletico have been struggling over the past month. They've lost 3 of their last 5. Their only victory ended up being a penalty shootout to Real Madrid, and they just drew at Espanyol. They're now 6 points behind Real, 9 behind Barca. It's fair to say that they need this win a lot more than Barcelona, but what do you feel are going to be the biggest things they need to improve on if they are to advance to the final?
Well, I think we had a run of I think a record-breaking 16 games winning streak, and then it came to an end against Leganes. And the issue, I think, unlike what most people would like to believe, which is what I believe the media has fed most people, is that Aleti has one of the best squad in Europe in terms of depth. But the issues for Aleti is if you actually look at the players who come from the bench, Struko is like the organizer, the one who makes Atletico tick. And then you have Barrios, who for some reason is having a very bad season, and I will not blame him given that the Olympics and not a lot of rest. And it's like he's struggling to actually be the successor to Koke because he can't actually dictate games with the ball. He has a lot of like sloppy movements, passes, or body orientation. And then if you go, you have Gallagher, who is a different type of profile. He's not someone where, because now in La Liga, unlike in 2014, most teams know what to expect from Aleti. It's like Aleti are like the protagonists, where they have more majority of the ball. And now having players like Gallagher or Llorente in midfield doesn't do Atleti a lot of justice, because you need guys who can actually thread passes between the lines, but you have runners in behind. So I think Atleti's team depth is what has actually, in midfield, is what has actually cost them the season. And then the other issue is that Atleti, for some reason, don't want to spend big on defense. For example, we have a player where he's from Barca, and it's like Barca does not want him anymore because he's not of good quality. And then Atleti are basically taking him on loan, and then it's true he has performed well this season, but he's not of that caliber because you still have him making silly mistakes in games. In the Copa del Rey, I think round of 32, a player from the third division basically gave him a hell of a game. And each time he was isolated out wide, giving Atleti play three at the back, it's like sorry, you know that he's just going to pass. It's like there was a hole there where he just passed. And so you kind of have like the squad is good that can compete. But to be honest, I would say that I'm one of those who was excited at the start of the season for the signings, but looking at the squad, I was not really expecting us to have competed the way we did this season. Because I think, unlike what most people don't know in La Liga, I'm sure Kevin accept with this, the gap to from Atleti to Real and Barca is not me playing the victim here like most people think Atleti fans do, has been actually been closed, but the gap is still wide in terms of the finances and the talent depth. And now we have competed a lot, and we are actually convinced a lot of people that we could go all the way, not just in the league, but in the Champions League as well. And this game is basically like you said, a do or die game, where if we don't win, then our season is over. And I'm sure Cholo knows that. And the lucky or advantageous part for us is that it's being played at our stadium. So it's like the return leg, and we have an advantage to actually turn things around. And as we saw in previous game between Barca and Atleti this season, a lot of goals come later on in the game. That's due to the fact that for Barca, the defenders are basically tired mentally, given that playing that high line doesn't require just the physical attribute as we have seen with Araujo. So as for Atleti, you have the super subs coming up and they are fresh. We saw a lot who loves scoring against Barca. I'm sure Kevin, you know that very well.
He's
Yeah.
well. The thing
We'll
about
get to sort off later, guys. But yeah, great
he's
stuff, Emmanuel. Yeah.
Okay.
But
So
guys, just want to move on to the next question because we do have limited time. In terms of their recent form, it's been night and day. We've actually got a graphic here to showcase that Atletico are out of the Champions League. They're basically out of the title race. Their season pretty much comes down to this game, all right? But whereas they have really fallen off in terms of recent form, Barca have done the exact opposite. They've won 6 in a row in all competitions. They haven't lost a single match since their defeat to Atletico on December 21st. They are very much in contention for a treble. Kevin, it's clear that Barcelona are one of, if not the best teams in the world right now, but is there any area in particular that worries you going into this match?
Lord, yes. Fullback. I don't think that there's a reason that so many opponents come down Koundé's flank. I think that Balde is suspect defensively. I think that Flick is starting Frankie de Jong, who can't defend me. I think that when it comes to an athletic, physical team with lots of movement, who can play intelligently with the offside trap, then you have 2 defenders in Martinez and Kubarsi who can be vulnerable. So, I mean, and plus, the larger question will be whether Ferran Torres has his brain in tonight, right? Because as we know, right, some matches he has his brain in and he's amazing, and then some he's like, brain, what's that? And he's just this bump on the wall. So yeah, so the basic nature of being a Barca fan is pessimism and worry. That's how we do it. No matter, right? Guardiola, steamrolling the world, doesn't matter. Pessimism and worry. And so, yeah, I always worry about every aspect of the ball, but it's especially fullback because as we know, wing play will be huge tonight. And that's where I think Atleti has the advantage running at the Barcelona fullbacks. So that's my main concern is fullback and then defensive midfield, because really Frankie de Jong is sort of like lurking around that zone, but there really is not a viable DM. And given how intelligently Griezmann plays the game, I foresee problems there as well.
Well, guys, let's break down the lineups real quick, okay? Wojciech Szczesny starting in goal, obviously, for Barcelona. Then you got a back four of Jules Koundé, Pau Cubarsí, Inigo Martinez, and Alejandro Balde. Interesting, no Ronald Araujo. And then in midfield, of course, you've got Frankie de Jong, Pedri, Fermin Lopez, and Rafinha, Lamal, and not the top scorer in La Liga, no Robert Lewandowski. I gotta say, that is probably the biggest surprise out of either lineup. But then you've got an Atletico side that is going with Juan Musso, backup goalkeeper, over Jan Oblak. Got a back three of Cesar Azpilicueta, Jose Maria Jimenez, Robin Lenormand, and then wingbacks of Marcos Llorente, Reinildo Mandava. Midfield trio of Giuliano Simeone, Pablo Barrios, Rodrigo de Paul, and then a front two of Julian Alvarez and Antoine Griezmann. Emmanuel, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that no substitute in this match will have more of an impact than Alexander Sorloth. And we got another graphic as well showing Sorloth's recent form. It doesn't matter if he's got a Real Sociedad jersey on or a Villarreal jersey on or an Atletico Madrid jersey on. This man loves scoring against Barcelona. I'm curious, what do you make of Simeone going with Sorloth over? What do you make of Simeone going with Julian Alvarez over Sorloth, having Barcelona's nightmare start the game on the bench, and overall, how important do you think he's going to be against Barcelona today?
Well, firstly, I mentioned the fact that later on in games, given that Barca play high line, you have a lot of fatigue, and then the players can actually maintain that very well because you have a lot of like they are no more in sync. So Solo can take advantage of that, like we saw in the league game and also in the first leg. And I think Alvarez Solo is I think one of the worst forwards when it comes to off the ball positioning that I've seen in an analytics shed. It's very poor. In the game against Athletic Club, where Athletic were playing a 5-3-2, where the aim of the strikers is basically to shield the pass into midfield to actually arrive at the defensive midfielders, especially Luis the Gallerita for Athletic Club. So Solo was actually doing a very bad job in such a way that Griezmann had to be doing what he was supposed to do and also do that for Solo as well. So in a game where you're playing against one of, if not the best attack in Europe this season, and one of the best teams, like you mentioned, in the world at the moment in terms of form, then you actually need players who are not just good on the ball, but also players who are effective of it. And with Alvarez, you have these moments where Atleti actually have to high press. Alvarez doesn't only have the aggressiveness, but also has the intelligence of how he presses, and then you have him running at defenders and putting them under a lot of pressure, which is key for Atleti in the moment where they actually decide to jump up and press. So there are a lot of advantages you have over that Alvarez brings to the table that Solo doesn't have. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think Solo has accepted his role at Atleti as an impact sub, where he's like, I will get 30 minutes a game to play, and I'll show the coach my worth. And then you have Cholo occasionally giving him stats like the game against Espanyol, and he's completely, I don't want to say useless, but not effective enough. And then he himself actually basically comes to the acceptance that he's more effective later on in games where the defense is tired, despite his size, he's very fast, and then with a lot of crosses into the box, like we saw in the game against Sevilla, he can actually have a lot of impact. So I have no issue with Alvarez starting over Solo. And I'm just going to say out here, I was not actually a huge fan of Alesi actually signing Solo because it was like a reactionary buy from losing Dufbe. Because despite his size, I'm not a fan of his hold up or link up play because Alesi actually need that. In games, let's say for example, against where we play against Barca, he would have been useful where we can actually go long to him, he holds the ball and then bring the others into play. but that's not actually the case. And you can't have somebody who offers a lot off the ball, and then you have a guy who's just so good, who's so effective in the box. So I believe bringing him as a super sub, and I'm sure the statistics speak for themselves, then it's actually a great move by Cholo, in my opinion.
And one thing that any football viewer knows is the law of the X is a real thing. For some reason, players just seem to play way better when they're going up against their former side. We saw that just yesterday, right? Anthony Elanga totally destroying Manchester United's defense and scoring the winner for Nottingham Forest. We saw that with Takefusa Kubo dribbling past a sea of Real Madrid defenders, getting an assist in the other semifinal. Kevin, how worried are you about Antoine Griezmann in this match? Obviously, he spent a couple of years at Barca, didn't really do much, but is now at Atletico and proving why he is one of, if not the greatest player in Atletico's history. And you also get the sense that this could be his last or maybe his second to last season at Atletico, but potentially his last chance for silverware. How big of an impact do you think he's going to have today?
It will depend on whether Frankie de Jong has his brain in, right? Same as Torres. I mean, when you look at how Anton Griezmann plays the game, he's such a smart player. His movement is constant. He's got an exceptional first touch. He knows how to read second runs. He does all those things that frankly drives the Barcelona midfield crazy, right? And when you have Fermin Lopez running around, where? Here, squirrel. And so, really, I mean, Pedri becomes the only one who has a functioning brain 100% of the time. So because Griezmann is so good at working those half spaces, those one touches that free up runners, I think, will be a massive influence today. Him and Alvarez will be the decisive players today. I mean, Sorloth, I mean, he's always a menace. And what Flick should do, but he won't, is when Simeone subs on Sorloth, then Flick should sub on Arujo. Because that's the only player with the physical capability on that back line of Barcelona to manage Sorloth and what neither one. Martinez, too slow, no hops, no mobility. Kubarsi, he's not physically ready to deal with Sorloth. Right. I mean, notice how many goals Kubarsi gives up where his man gets goal side of him. Like 4 or 5 this season. Where Big Ronald's like, yeah, it's not going to happen here. Sorry, dude. So we'll see if that sub gets made today, because every time they've not done it, Sorloth has killed Barcelona. Every time. Every time.
So basically what you're saying is Flick was spying on Simeone's lineup, and as soon as he saw that Alvarez was going to start over Sorloth, he was like, okay, no, actually, Ronald, you're good to start on the bench. That's what...
I think that Flick really likes the way that Martinez and Kubarsi build play from the back. Yeah, I think having 2 players with that kind of fluency, especially without a proper defensive mid to bridge that gap between back line and midfield, you need 2 players who can shape a pass and help the team build from the back. That's something that Ronald Araujo can't do. and may never be able to do. But I mean, he is a man among men on that back line. He's like, this is, it's not happening today. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I think that there is value in that. I frankly am concerned he might leave this summer, but we'll see.
Yeah, I share those concerns. Got another graphic showing you their recent head-to-head form. Obviously, the last few matches between these two sides have been high-scoring affairs, and it's been just 2 weeks since these sides last faced off. Atletico were winning by 2 goals with 20 minutes left, and as they say, two-goal lead is a dangerous league. Barcelona went on to score 4 goals and win 4-2 in the
Завтра
capital.
утром.
Oops.
Покидаешь туда вещи вот так вот.
Some random person calling me on Telegram. Apologize. Emmanuel, what do you think are the biggest lessons that Atletico learned from that match, that 4-2 defeat? And overall, are you expecting that defeat to impact Simeone's strategy going into this game? Do you feel like if it's going to be a higher scoring match, then Flick has the better chance of winning, not Simeone?
Well, firstly, I would like to say if Araujo is to leave Barca, then I think he will be a good fit for Cholo. And then, because Atleti don't actually have a lot of defenders who can defend 50 meters on that goal. But I'm sure Barca fans will want that. Now, talking about the last game, I believe what I think what I think will be emphasized on will be the fact that we should not drop too deep, especially after we take the league. And I'm sure there's a saying that each team is basically a representative of the coach. And I think for Aleti's nature, and I think it's Simeon's nature, is the fact that even if we are having a lot of possession in a game, and then we go on to take the lead, basically Cholo believes in his philosophy of become much better out of position, and obviously it is the nature of the opposition to want to attack us. So obviously there will be spaces, and then we take advantage of those spaces. But in doing so, you have Simeon's Aleti dropping deep and deep and deep. And in I think previous seasons where Aleti struggled 2018, 2019, you had no actual outlet to actually save them. And now with better quality, he believes that we are Alvarez, with Griezmann, sitting deep is actually not an issue. But the issue is the back line is not the back line of 2014. For example, Jose Maria Jimenez is not Diego Godin. Lenormand is as good as Miranda, but the likes of Lenglet are not actually at that level. So if you notice, we actually got undone from our box defending, which was actually shocking because Alexi has been very good this season in box defending. And I'm sure one thing you also want is that those crosses from the half spaces, because I think this Barca team actually excels a lot at receiving in the pockets, which is why Cholo obviously crowds the center of the pack so well that they don't actually have a lot of space. And seeing the lineup kind of like hurt me that he did not go with Lewandowski, because it now means that Barca has three players who are very good off the ball. And Barca is one of the teams where their off the ball movement is actually in sync with those players who are actually ball hoggers like Yamal Pedri. So you have Fermin Lopez, you have Ferran Torres starting at the strike, and then you have Rafinha. Those are three players who will run at you and run at you. And we spoke about Antoine Griezmann not long ago. And if Griezmann was actually in this fixed Barca, I believe he does so well with his off the ball, with his off the ball movement. And
Absolutely.
that's something Barca have not had since Pedro, I believe. So this season they have that in abundance. And that's why if teams sit deep or teams press high, they can still cause them issue because they're not a team who have a lot of, or let's say only ball hoggers. They have players who are very good at attacking space. Rafinha is one of the best in the world at the moment at doing that. Then you have Ferran Torres, who I think since moving to Man City redefined himself, and now he's like the guy who actually senses the danger in the box. So I believe a lot of things Cholo have learned is that you want the team to actually defend better, because I know he knows he has the upper hand in actually the width, like Kevin said, because Ronaldo is playing because you have Yamal starting, and he did a good job against Yamal in the league. And now Aleti attack a lot of the spaces behind Kunde, which is something I'm expecting Flick to actually take care of. And despite the fact that Kevin may not seem to be a fan of Frankie, but I believe in the game against Aleti, he caused a lot of harm in his movement and he won a lot of duels. I just believe Frankie is a player where he's that type of player who suit Real Madrid more than Barca, where he's not limited to a particular position or a role. He's that type of player that I think similar to Pogba, where we more freedom in the movement. What happens now? He has a higher influence on the game. But the sad reality for him is that he's playing in a Barca team who has Pedri. So his responsibility on the ball actually reduces. So, in my opinion, I believe Cholo actually
Bravo.
learned a lot, and the aim will be, unlike all
Кто
Cholo's team when
играет?
he start big games, to start hot, like
Нигде не играет,
be
болельщик.
very aggressive from the get go, and he get that early goal, and then we can actually, because I believe Cholo is one of the
Да.
first coaches who actually found the weakness in Barca's high line, where you have a lot of runners from the second
Дотянется,
line,
да, вопрос.
unlike
Ну,
most
какой
teams.
футболист? Ну, в смысле,
So
кто к нам пойдет?
exactly, and you have this zigzag movement which causes a lot of problem, and I'm sure that's why Kevin was talking about Griezmann a lot, because he
За
was a
Атлетико.
reason for
Ой, есть у
Barrios'
него там
pass
5000
for Solo's
подписчиков в
goal.
Твиттере, нормально.
So you have a lot of things in play, and the sad reality or the bad thing for Atleti is Griezmann is not actually at his best at the moment, and
Right.
Cholo also talk about that. So we'll be hoping that he comes back to his best, because he knows he might be leaving this summer and he has not won a lot for
Да, легко
Atleti.
вообще. После
And
сегодняшнего
believe it or not,
выступления.
the only trophy he has won for Atleti are actually European titles. As for
Yeah.
domestic trophies, he has none, and he was actually so devastated. That's why in the game against Espanyol, he tried to do more than what he could, like his physical attributes and everything, and he ending
Всё,
up
молодец, всё
being a
хорошо.
deficit for him rather than a positive for the team. So I'm believing he's playing this game, given that this might be my last season. So going out with the trophy, especially given that we might meet Real Madrid in the final, and beating them will be great, because Atleti has a good record in the final, domestic final, not European finals. That hurts. That
Yeah,
hurts
not a big fan.
against Real.
And Atletico, they have there are a few differences between them, right? Flick, since Diego Simeone took charge in December 2011, Barca have had 10 different managers. Okay, that's one difference. Another difference, pretty similar. Atletico have a lot of players who've been in the capital for a decade or so. Jan Oblak, Koke, Antoine Griezmann, on and off. But I've got an interesting stat for you that I think is going to blow your mind. So it's been 5 years since
Да
that
его нашли за
2019-20
местной
COVID
девицей, которая
season,
отказалась. У
and
нас было
the
400
only
братьев.
player from that 2019-20 Barca team that is involved today
Болельщица.
is Frankie de Jong. On the other hand, Atletico
Играет в
have two
Ньюкасле.
players who are going to be
За Атлетико.
involved with
Ну, тут
Clement Lenglet
формат,
and
что
Antoine
болельщик
Griezmann, both from that Barca
Атлетико
team.
против болельщика
Obviously,
Барселоны.
Lenglet starting on the bench. But of course, with Ter Stegen injured, with other players such as Iñaki Peña, Ansu Fati,
Татьяна.
Araujo on the bench, there's a good chance we could see
Да.
more players from that Barca team feature for Atletico than Barcelona. Pretty crazy, if you ask me. But guys, we're approaching the kickoff, so I just want to do a few more questions and wrap this up. Kevin, Barcelona have scored 82 goals in 29 league matches. That's 35 more than Atletico have scored this season. But whilst Barca have the best attack in Spain, Atletico also have the best defensive record with just 23 goals conceded. Do you feel like it's going to be fire and ice, that it's going to be Atletico's defense against Barcelona's attack? And overall, what's your prediction for today? You think this thing gets decided in 90 minutes, 120 minutes, penalty?
Yeah, as I said, I think it'll be 90 minutes and 2-1 to Letty. I think that a team, it's weird, the whole idea of like mentality, right? And
Right.
wanting something more than your opponent and having your entire season, basically. I mean, their success will be defined now by the Copa, where Barcelona's like, well, we got Dortmund coming up, and then we got, the league to worry about. And so I think that intangible, which is right difficult to define, but we see it time and time again, will be decisive unless Simeone goes full Simeone and his teams late in matches tend to retreat. They tend to play to not lose rather than to win. So when you see a 50-50 ball where one of their players can run at and win the ball, late in the match, that player will move back to defend. And that's when, so if he doesn't do that, they win. If he does, Barcelona wins 2-3, right? It will
Okay.
really depend on how Simeone, who, by the way, I believe Letty has outgrown.
Whoa.
I think that they have the talent now that needs a different head space on the bench. And I know it's blasphemy to say that, but he has taken them, I think, as far as he can take them with the mentality that he has. So this, I mean, it won't be his swan song, but I think that
Oh,
both Barcelona and Madrid are going to get better with signings, with money that lets them sign players. And I think that Simeone will be stuck there in that, like, that, pugnacious, right, third place, getting results, getting enough results to excite, but not enough to be fully victorious. And I think Letty might be at the point, not that they will, where they should be thinking about maybe looking for a new, more dynamic face for that bench. What do you think, man?
well, Kevin, to give a reply to your question, I think that has crossed my mind a lot of times, especially when we are slumbering. It's like Cholo needs to evolve. And I don't mean involvement with the ball, because Aliti has been one of the most unpredictable teams in possession this season. What has actually affected them is actually what they do off the ball. And it seems like it is his nature that he believes that he can control games more without the ball than with the ball. And also, the deeper he defends is like, if I have more box defenders, I can actually defend better than the opponent. And I think there's a day that will come that we actually have to say bye to Cholo. But the issue is, I don't trust those in charge enough to make a good decision to actually say, I want Cholo to go. Because it's like the board are willing to spend, for example, 120 million a striker than even to spend 40 or 50 million a centre back. So it's like the board have what they prioritize, and I believe the board is okay with what Chola has done so far in like building up the team, having more income, more revenue at the end of the day. And it's like Chola has gotten the team to. It's like he saved the management, and the management owe him one. So I basically believe it will be the day that he wants to go that he goes. And as for the management, like I said before, I don't trust them enough because they have done good. And this summer we have Busero, who is basically will be in charge for the first time in transfers. And I think this will actually show us where the board wants to go to. Because I believe if you give Simeone a competitive team that is well balanced, I believe he challenges Barca and Madrid closer or more than we even saw this season. Because despite the limitations that this squad have, which I think the media, especially in Spain, there have not actually pointed out, which I said earlier in midfield and also in defense, he has actually done a lot. And would I love to see Cholo go? I believe I will say no, because there are moments where I've been excited with how he plays. Like you said, he excites enough, but we don't actually get there. And given the Atleti fans, and given that I started supporting the team in 29, where we are not actually where we are now, looking at where we are now, and then that fear of actually going on a managerial merry-go-round and maybe slumbering to where I see the likes of Valencia, Sevilla, Villarreal. So not Villarreal, Valencia, Sevilla. It kind of says, well, I'm content with Cholo at the moment, and I believe that when we actually arrive at the stage where we can actually, like, the gap with Barca and Madrid, because it's getting closer, but it's still wide. But I believe that we can arrive at a stability financially where we can take certain risks with management, and then it doesn't affect us, because at the moment, if we don't play Champions League football, then that affects a lot on the amount of money or our future success. So I think that's something to take into consideration for Atleti fans when thinking about should Cholo go or should Cholo stay.
Final score prediction, Emmanuel?
Whoa, I don't want to jinx it, man.
Okay, fair enough. Just so you're going with the 4-0 Barca win, I take it. You have a reverse jinx.
Okay, I'll take that.
Okay, we'll take that. I I am gonna go with a 3-2 Atletico win in extra time. Let's go with goals from Sorloth, Alvarez, Simeone, And on the Barca side, we'll say Rafinha and Inigo Martinez. Why not?
Set piece.
It's
Interesting.
going to be interesting, but I'm going with goals. I'm thinking it's going to be an exciting match, and I want to thank both Emmanuel and Kevin so much for coming on. Definitely not the last time we will be having a live stream on RG, and definitely not the last time we'll be having you guys on. Thank you so much. This was an absolute pleasure, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
Yes, absolutely. So it's fun talking to you, Zach.
Same goes with you, Kevin. And